Hello and welcome to episode 2 of War Down South, a fortnightly Warhammer podcast hosted by myself, Callum Slater, and my good friends Ricky Robson.
Hey.
And Sam Nice. He's not actually going to be in the intro this week because we are recording without him. So this week we will be following on from our discussions in episode 1 about our first impressions of Warhammer 40k 9th edition. Ricky and I have now got some games under our belt, so we'll just be going over some brief descriptions of those and how we think we'll be adapting our plans, our armies, and our strategies going forward for that. But first of all, we will be going through the news of the week, including the Games Workshop FAQs, the big announcement about Space Marines, and all of the new releases and pre-orders for the coming and past weeks. So, sit back, relax, grab a stiff drink, let's have some fun. Cheers. Okay, brilliant. So, thanks for joining us on our second episode. I'm once again your host, Callum, and I am again joined by my co-hosts, Ricky.
Hey.
And Sam.
Hey.
So how are you guys doing this week?
Wonderful.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, all right.
Absolutely
all right.
wonderful.
That's all good to hear. I know that.
How about
you? Yeah, I'm all good, thank you. I'm been slowly roasting over the last couple of weeks. It's nice to get a bit of miserable British weather to cool everyone down.
Warm? Has it?
It's been disastrous for people like me. Yeah, but
Fat, bold.
All right.
so sweaty.
So not too bad then. So what have you guys been up to hobby wise since we last talked over 2 weeks ago?
You want to field this, Rick?
Go for it. I literally ordered my first custodian guard squad. So they've arrived. They are shiny. I've pulled them out the box and I have eyed up sprues.
That's not Elder. This is wrong.
Yeah, this is getting. Is this getting saucy? I have also ordered other custodian guards. So as far as hobby has actually gone, I have purchased products. I have brought products into my home. I have laid products down on my hobby table, and I have admired products. For the moment, I've got a plan for them. So I haven't started building them just yet. Just going to put a few of them, stack a few boxes together, and check out how they're going to work to make sure that the idea that I've got behind them is going to work. So nothing's been built yet, but I'm starting to collect the new army, and hopefully in the next week or so I can start assembling and hopefully forming the idea that I have in my head.
Brilliant. Okay. So Ricky's been buying stuff and then immediately not doing anything with it and then buying new stuff like a good capitalist. What about you, Sam? What have you been up to?
Despite the unfathomable heat in my flat over the last week, I've had a very busy hobby time. It turns out 32-degree heat is the best heat for having your weathering powders dry nice and quickly onto your big stilly tanks. So I've been finishing those up this week, and I have started a large production line of bases for my new Grey Knight project, which you may or may not have fallen off of your wagon and into mine. So yeah, I'm currently mass producing 40mm bases, as I have felt the need to go back to a very shiny old friend and cast lots of psychic powers.
No, that's great. And yes, I fell off the Grey Knight wagon. They were in a box because I got distracted by Grey Knights. So I decided to do a little bit of care in the community and donate them to Sam, and so they'd actually get some use.
I didn't realise we were accepting donations. I mean, Custodians and Grey Knights would have gone well together then. Damn it.
That's okay. Sam's a bit more special than you.
Needs more help and donations in life.
Well, Sam did lovingly trade me his wonderfully painted Imperial Knight army for them. So
okay.
They're going to sit on a shelf and probably not get used until I get bored enough to try Imperial Knights.
Until you get so tired that you can't finish painting that army the night before an event.
Exactly. That's what they're going to be perfect for. I've got some
As
big
if
stumpy
we've ever
robots.
done that.
All the goddamn time.
Until you've seen Callum actually like spraying miniatures on a train platform on the way to an event.
That was a very long time ago in my defence, and my process has evolved since then.
The night before.
Yeah, predominantly the night before. I've done the odd thing like finish base rims on the same night and on the same day as an event. I'm pretty sure I was still painting unit markings on my Drakari for the first time I used them at Confrontation a couple of years ago, the morning of the event.
I think we've all been there, haven't we? I think you and me were sharing a room at the old Premier Inn up in Nottingham when I'm sitting there painting old Sabertooth for my ogre army. So yeah, I think we've all been there, haven't we?
Yeah, 100%.
Good times.
Speaking of those AOS tournaments, I think that was the first GT season, isn't it? We started to go to those.
It was good.
Frontline Gaming randomly used a picture from one of the first AOS GT heats, and I am front and center in the middle of it. So they'll be receiving contact from my lawyers for using me.
I'm sure you're wearing some kind of NFL shirt, lime green.
Yeah, I was wearing one of my Action Green Seattle Seahawks jerseys. And I'm pretty sure it was only like 10 o'clock in the morning, but I was already very, very sweaty. So it's a great look.
Is it shiny?
I promise I won't steal the picture and do horrible Photoshop related things to it.
For personal pleasure.
I have been working on my Death Guard over the last couple of weeks.
Yes, excited to hear what's been going on with these.
Yes, yeah. I've now got the initial 2,000 point army. It's all built. I've got a little bit of gap filling and conversion work to do on what I'll be using for my spawn. But actually today, I've started to do some spraying, a little bit of airbrushing, and getting the first colours on my first unit Plague Marines. So that's very exciting.
Very.
Yes, they're underway. Luckily, it cooled off a little bit, so it's made the spraying a little bit easier.
It's not dry before it hits it, you mean?
No, yeah, exactly.
And you're just spraying powder.
That beautiful powdery finish.
Yeah. If I was going for a dusty look, I'd be repainting my Thousand Suns in that weather with that technique.
Oh, lovely.
But anyway, so yeah, we've all been up to varying degrees of hobby. Some of us more than others. So what has GW been up to? New release wise, what have we seen over the last couple of weeks?
Well, looks like they've been pretty busy.
Blood Bowl.
I think Ricky wants to talk about Necromunda.
Oh, sorry, did I slur my words? Did I? the new, is it the new Necromancer team?
Well, we've seen 3 new teams in like the last week, haven't we? So the next edition of Blood Bowl, the starter set is a brand new human team,
which is beautiful.
Which are beautiful, full of burly, old, rotund nobles with fantastic mustaches and a new Griff Oberwald model, which is great.
Yeah,
I don't want to say they're all wearing pimp hats, but there's a lot of big feathers in that.
There is. Squire, pass me the ball, sir, please. No, and it reminds me. It reminds me of Family Guy, where Peter starts to play American football, and then he ends up going to England. To our wonderful town, city, country, whatever you want to call it.
Do you know where you live?
I don't even know where I am at the moment, pal.
Mate.
He ends up playing for like this English American football team, and they're all very, oh, sir, please pass me the ball. It just reminds me of that. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, those models are outstanding. And I think in that box as well is a brand new Black Orc and Goblin team.
Oh man, yes.
Which
didn't they look good?
Yeah, they look absolutely fabulous. If
a lot of tusks in that team, I like it.
Yeah, spiky bits, lots of armor, and I like the goblins or the grots in that team who look like they're attempting to block whilst veering away from the person they're trying to push, because they look like they're just going to get crushed. So that's very cute. And then we've got the trailer for the new Necromancer team, which
pumpkin helmets, man.
Is proper pop culture Halloween theme.
So good.
I like the white.
That could lure me back in.
Yeah, I like
pretty.
The whites are just bed sheets.
There's actually a fourth because they did the Snotling team as well, didn't they?
Yes, yeah. So I think they gave us a little update on that because I think that was on one of the GW previews during lockdown.
I love Snotlings.
So the new pump wagon's very cool. I like them running around with like tin cans on their heads as helmets and stuff. They're very cute.
Okay, and I'm back in.
And Sam has interest again.
Sold.
Yeah, they look great. If you haven't seen them yet, Sam, they're. I think they're at the bottom of one of the articles. It might be the Black Orc one.
I'll go dig them.
But they'll little peek. They look great. Really look great. I haven't played Blood Bowl. I think I've started it at the start of the new season, the new edition. Sorry. And I didn't really play it much since then, but slowly getting lured back in because I used to be a big Blood Bowl fan, and I've kind of veered away from it. So it'll be good to start smashing some faces in again soon.
That's great. Yeah, I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with Blood Bowl. Go through spurts of really enjoying it, and then
I'm the wagon.
Same. Yeah.
I'm currently off the wagon, but I think Snotlings will lure me back on.
That's cool. And what else have they been up to? I think.
Well, there's a couple of new releases that went on pre-order today that I thought were pretty damn sexy, and that is the K-Knight Underworld warband. Not so fussed about the armored Uruks. It's basically Iron Jaws in a slightly different pose by the looks of it.
Yeah, they're brutes instead of hard boys. So, so they're a bit bigger.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, they're a little bit bigger, but an Uruk's an Uruk, isn't it?
Ooh, bloody hell!
I don't know. The old Uruk warband was quite tank hard at the start of the old editions.
Yeah.
And this one looks much harder because there's 3 of them now, isn't there?
Yeah. 3 in the box.
And in Underworlds, we all know that 3-man warbands are usually tank hard.
Yeah.
Absolutely defensible, smashing, swinging old sledgehammers type jobby.
Or tree.
Or some sort, yeah.
Monologue.
The K-Knight stuff is...
the K-Knights, they just look beautiful, and they have a very, very beautiful dice set that goes with it. And the other thing that I literally saw just before I logged on with you guys is the Forge World pre-order for the new Keeper of the Dungeons for Middle-earth.
Yes,
I must have seen that one.
Yeah, he's been poking around. I think like there's been pictures of that model for a couple of years, but they've never actually got round to releasing him until now. So that's
real purdy.
Because you've got a Dol Guldur army as well, haven't you, Sam?
I do. I have. I've got the Nazgul and the Necromancer, and they need a big albino bearded friend. Yeah,
absolutely, 100%.
Brilliant.
And I think so that's all very cool. I'm hoping we get the Middle-earth made to order that was teased before lockdown, and the new plastic AMR soon as well, because those models are outstanding.
He's the one that was 3 different AMRs, right?
Yeah, it's so it builds an AMR on foot and an AMR on horse, but
so 2 different.
two
Beg
different ones,
pardon.
but it's I think it's the first Middle-earth plastic kit to come with like a variety of options. So you can have him with spear or shield, spear or sword, and then shield without shield, helmet, holding helmet or without
lovely.
helmet. When I first saw it, I assumed the first picture is him like galloping along, throwing his spear, and I assumed it was going to be a Forge World resin, but it's it's a plastic modular kit for him. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we get a few more things like that for Middle-earth, because the new stuff they've produced for it has just been
they're just knocking it out of the park, aren't they? It's absolutely stunning.
Cool. So I think last week we saw the release of the newest Adeptus Titanicus supplement, the Defensive Riser, which is very cool, which has introduced some customizable Legios and the new variants on the Cerastus Knights. I think it's the Archeron and the Castigator.
Right.
Which is very cool. I'm
They
sure I'll
look
pick
cool.
up some of those and add them to my my Titan Legion forces, because they're very fabulous. I know there's a couple of an avid Titanicus community around our area, and a very, very happy man in Mr. Chris Revel, who runs Tabletop Standard, who I imagine is very, very giddy and over the moon that they've got another supplement after being left in the wastes for a little bit without anything new.
And speaking of tiny models, there's Forge World just dropped two new planes for AI aeronautical Imperialis, haven't they? So you've got the variant of the Valkyrie, the Vulture, is it?
The Vulture, the big single engine gunship thing.
Yeah, so it for a little bit more lasery shootiness, which is good, because that's a lot better. Because I think when I was assembling mine and you had the option for it, I'm looking at it going, it's not really going to look like it.
No, but it's a completely different chassis, isn't it?
Exactly. I was a bit weird why they would say, "Oh yeah, just do this and you've got this." And I was like, "No, it doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like it at all." And then what's the other one? The transport.
Yes, the Arvus.
Yeah,
the little Arvus lighter,
cute.
Which has
it's literally like a Nissan Micra in the air.
I'm just looking at it now. It's tiny.
Yeah.
I wonder if it will be as useless in AI as it is in 40k.
Well, no. See, it's got like a dedicated transport capacity, which when you're playing some of the missions in an Aeronautica, you need stuff like that. And typically, you'd use your bombers to have a transport capacity in those missions to like drop off supplies and stuff to the stuff that's the ground forces. But that is super cheap to add into your.
I'm not surprised. It looks like a Fiat Panda with a jet engine on it.
That's it.
It's got no guns. It's got no way of defending itself. If it gets hit, it explodes. But I think it's A, something that's existed in 40k for a while, and B, just something for the tool belt, really. I think.
I shouldn't be looking at the Forge World page now. I can see the new Kinzar for the Heresy character series. The character for the White Scars.
With his two big
beautiful
whopping swords. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Yes.
You guys are now being mentally drowned out of my brain by Mongolian throat singing. Oh, God, it's stunning.
Yeah. It's mildly sexually appealing, aren't they?
Oh yeah. It's only my intense dislike for painting white that would stop me spending that money.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, but you can paint up to like half of the model red.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. That's true. That's only half as much pain.
Yeah. And what went on pre-order this week? I think it was new release today.
The new box sets
was the new starter sets. Yeah,
that's it. That's the ones.
Which are really great. I mean, I don't think I'll be picking them up myself unless I need any of the Marine or Necron things. But I think following in the vein of what they released for last edition, the First Strike, and what they've been doing with AOS, I think they're really.
They look pretty good. If I was in the mood to start a new Crusading Marine Force, those larger boxes with all that terrain, that would be getting bought on a hammer taken to the terrain for making sexy bases.
Yeah, absolutely.
It looks pretty good value to me.
Yeah, I'm sure I would imagine this is the way to go with each new codex release. You're probably going to get a new star box somewhere along the lines, aren't we? Of the same thing or the same style. So
yeah,
I don't know if we will. You never know, but I'd like to think so.
That would be cool.
So.
That would definitely be cool. But I guess that's kind of what I kind of guess that's what the getting started or the start collecting kits are for. Primarily more than anything. And I know that a lot of those have undergone changes since they were like initially released.
I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Well, exactly. Patience is something that
Warhammer players don't have much of.
Yeah, or any at all.
Any of. Good and bad was that, I think.
Edit this section, yeah.
No, I'll make it stand out more.
Yeah, we can see if we can survive the boatload of salt that's coming our way for mentioning how impatient people are.
No, we'll be fine. I'm an Eldar player. I understand the salt, and if you haven't got that much coming from me, I'm sure we'll be fine.
That's right.
But actually, having mentioned Eldar and linking back to our earlier conversation, having finished painting my Minotaur artillery tank during the week,
here we go.
I noticed that it was toughness 8, which means your Howling Banshees wound it on 6s, Rick.
They wound anything toughness 6 on 6s, pal. So.
Oh yeah.
So your toughness.
I'd remind you.
Yeah, no. I fully appreciate that. With even with the new reveals of what happens with power swords, I'm still winning your 6s. No, I get that. Yeah. I wouldn't use my Howling Banshees to punch tanks, though. Please appreciate
that's all right. That's all right. I'm just going to use it as a yardstick for measuring.
No, I get that. I get there's some kind of personal Howling Banshee hate going on here.
Just think, Sam, if you were playing 2 editions ago, they wouldn't be able to hurt it at all.
Oh. Yeah, no, you're totally right. You're totally right.
Ricky would just have to take his models off the board in shame.
Yeah.
He'd have to take his plastic pointy ears off and just.
There was also the
silently put him back
2 editions ago. I wouldn't have had nice plastic miniatures. I would have had. I would have had probably the 3rd incarnation of Howling Banshees that were not very good.
That's true. It would have hurt more when you binged those metal Banshees off my head for mocking you.
Yeah, that's it. From a player that used to have 30 Howling Banshees on the table at once, I understand what it's like to peel them off. Good times.
Yeah.
There's still hope. I don't care what you all say. And I think every episode from now on, we're going to have a Howling Banshee update. Am I right?
More than likely.
Yeah.
I'm happy to mock them like ad nauseum because they're never going to be good.
We'll see. What edition were we at when Power Swords ignored armor saves? 5th?
6th, maybe.
Okay, that's when I was laughing at you. That's
yeah, but you still had to wound.
Yeah, you still had to wound and also get them into combat.
Oh well, come on, guys, give me some it. Come on. I mean, I was last night. I was playing my first game at 9th, which was lovely, and I was talking to Tom, the wonderful Tom Suter, and he was playing his Craftworlds. I was playing my Harlequins, and we were talking about Jane through my love of Howling Banshees. We're talking about good old Jane Czar and stuff, and where my solitaire sits there of 8 attacks, and the new weapon for the Howling. So you got me talking about Howling Banshees like consistently now. The new weapon for Troop Masters, where I get 1 extra attack for every turn and stuff like this, and we're talking about how many, and yet Jane Czar still sits there at 4 attacks. Bless her. It's so insulting. It's incredible. And at 10 points more, you've got Ragnar Blackmane, who's just dishing out so much more than this 20, 30 odd thousand-year-old Callum Banshee. Oh, you guys have started me. I'm going to cry.
Well, it's not our fault, but we have just got to taste
So what you're
some of that
saying-
delicious elder salt we were talking about literally 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, and that's the salt that I
Everybody's better
laugh
than
at.
me.
You see, you've triggered it. You've triggered it. I don't like it. I don't like it when I feel like a hypocrite.
Shall we leave this segment here, Ricky? Give
Yeah.
you an opportunity to
Can
go
we cut? Can we cut?
have a bit
We're
of a
half
cry.
hour in and you've already got me upset. Can we cut?
We'll just leave it there with your equal opportunities geriatric Phoenix laws and how every other character is
God's
better.
sake. God's sake.
We'll leave it there.
Oh,
Okay.
so insulting. I'm going to pour a drink.
Pour a drink. Get ready. You know, feel a bit better about yourself, and then join us back in a second when we will be discussing the big news this week,
Boom, boom, boom.
as well as the constantly changing GW FAQs. Catch you in a minute.
Woo.
Okay, and welcome back. I'm still Callum, and I'm still joined by Sam and Ricky.
Hey.
I'm still me.
And apparently Bill
And
Cosby.
having a slap.
And apparently Bill Cosby, yeah.
Let's immediately step away from that and find out what Ricky is drinking this week. What have you got in front of you, my man?
My friend, I have the most exotic rum you could ever ask for. So this week we have the Koyaba salted caramel rum.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm both
this
intrigued and repulsed.
Oh, this is wonderful. This is washed down with a cherry Pepsi Max, our usual Tibble.
Yeah. Fabulous.
And this is no word of a lie. This is just like, your salted caramel donut washed down with a bit of Pepsi.
I don't think I want you talking about my salted caramel over the airwaves.
Oh, this is wonderful. Honest, this is wonderful.
That does sound pretty exotic. I have made myself a small jug of mojito.
No way.
Yeah.
You've gone the full cocktail route.
Is it proper mojito or like when you did white trash margaritas that time?
No, it's not those white trash margaritas. No, I actually made them. We were supposed to be having a barbecue / 40k day tomorrow, but the weather is apparently supposed to tip it down all day. So I was going to have mojitos for that. So I've decided to drink them tonight instead. So I am lovely, refreshed, and have a minty party in my mouth. Great.
Mm.
Yeah, I love a
Sam,
good mojito.
what have you got? You still on the coffee? You
No,
still
not even that this week. I am last minute McGee. I have my notepad and a pencil.
Oh, good stuff then.
That's a terrible drink.
It tastes like crap.
I can imagine you sat there with it in your gob,
So yeah,
sucking along.
sort of thing's a delicacy in Hastings, isn't it?
It certainly is. Of course, that dish originally was a Gosport masterpiece, as you well know. But Estonians are all about cultural appropriation.
Oh, lovely.
Dear. Brilliant. Right. Okay.
What
so
were we talking about?
Why were you?
So the big news this week. Did we want to start with the world-changing salt manufacturing change to Space Marines, or did we want to talk about the FAQs first?
Let's go with the Space Marines.
Let's get it out of the way.
It's been amusing watching the internet throw its toys out the pram, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It really has. Like all those people that ditched their Space Marines for Primaris, and now they've realised, oh, maybe we were a bit hasty. And
it's almost like you could tie this to our previous comment about Wargamers not having patience to wait for things.
yeah, that's it. As an Eldar player, no, I'm just going to leave that there. Yeah.
So yes. I mean, I imagine people who are listening to this aren't so much under a rock that they haven't heard the big news that Space Marines, regular firstborn, little old pleb Marines that everyone thought were going off to the retirement home, have now been given an extra wound and are apparently relevant again.
Yeah.
And their weapons are getting a bit of a tweak, a bit of a spruce to almost represent what they're really supposed to effectively represent.
Is it that, or have they just finally figured out how to turn the safety off? It's probably that.
What do you reckon? On a heavy bolter, they realise that every other round is probably an explosive, or well, extra explosive, considering heavy bolter rounds are all explosive.
Yes, but I think instead of the thing that's generated the apparent controversy, I don't understand how people can be upset about all of their toys getting better and there being new toys on the way. But is essentially the drastic changes to how we currently see armies. So, for example, all of the old firstborn stuff getting an extra wound, changing how different weapons function. I think what people are anxious about is how fundamental is the change going to be for the other codexes, so like Tau, Orcs, etc. And how do you judge? How do you judge any like future purchases or building and painting models that you've currently got against not knowing when the big change to your codex is going to come, and B, what that change will be. So I can sort of understand that sort of anxiety where, for example, if you've got battle suits that can have plasma missiles or fusion blasters, so if you compare them to the immediate Marine equivalent, like melter guns are getting the +2 damage at short range. Now, you could say, okay, well, a fusion blaster is essentially a melter gun, but is that going to come with a points increase, or is it going to actually change to be something completely different? Yeah. What do I equip them now if I'm buying into them now, or what? So I can get that level of anxiety. I don't get the complaining about it personally, but I'm somebody who I'm apparently a shill for GW, so.
You are GW's filthy cabana boy, and we love you for it.
You are, but I do feel that you think quite logically towards it. Like I think a lot of people are quite quick to jump on the bandwagon of throwing the toys out the pram straight away, rather than waiting it out, or waiting a couple of days, or waiting a week or so to see how things. It's an announcement about changes that are coming in the future for the good. It's not worth throwing your toys out the pram straight away. I mean, creating a new edition, I can't imagine is an easy. Is an easy task, is it? Like, we were there with 8th as well when the indexes all dropped and all the new armies were there, and Astra Militarum were rubbish, and Crafters were rubbish, and I think a lot of armies were probably quite rubbish. And then their all codexes all started dropping, and then like the power creep started because this army had its new codex, and this is all the way that things were going to work, and that poor little index army was no good because it didn't have a codex. I think we're probably in that stage again, and it's not a 100%. Bad thing. It might be a bad thing for your first few games, for your first few, month or so. But I mean, come on, it always works out for the better, I think. And be patient.
Be patient, or just build what you want to build, rather than wait to see what everyone tells you is good.
That's it. Or actually spend some time with your missus.
Yeah, or that.
Just for a short period of time, show her some love.
That would work, but I imagine that people have been locked up with their missus for the for the last 4 or 5 months. So I can imagine some much needed hobby time in the spare bedroom or.
What you talking about, Willis?
Yeah, good
Gary
point.
Coleman.
As one of those people that works with my missus, lives with my missus, and I'm now sitting in my own little hobby room as she's downstairs.
Yeah. So yeah, I get the anxiety over it, but I'm far more excited about that essentially being the idea for
the future.
For the future, i.e., there's going to be big things. There's going to be big things coming down the pipeline. It will change how all of these armies are
portrayed.
And how they're going to play, and those codexes will be specifically designed for this edition.
Yeah.
So that's great. It doesn't invalidate anything that's out at the moment.
Of course not.
There'll be a period of disparity between Loyalist and Chaos Marines, because GW said that the weapon profiles, I believe they said that GW will update the weapon profiles in an FAQ, so there's parity between the codexes there, but the wound update won't come until your actual codex is released.
Right.
So you might, so there'll be a bit of a disparity there, but then the normal Marine stuff will be more points, etc., etc. And I can imagine they're going to want to churn through them fairly quickly.
It's got me crossing my fingers for the future, obviously having just picked up my old Grey Knight love again, as to whether or not that increase in wounds will roll out to more specialist Terminator units over time. He says, looking over at his hobby station with all the paladins on it.
Well, the immediate assumption is that they'll just get an extra wound. But I can't see them having paladins running around with 4 wounds. That would be insane.
It would be ridiculous, but I'm going to hope anyway.
Yeah, I imagine that they might give them an alternative role to play instead of just being much better Terminators. But that falls into the realm of rampant speculation.
I thought that's what the hobby was all about.
No, the hobby is about.
I spent too much time online.
Yeah, I mean, I get people who want to possibly keep up with the tournament meta, etc., like wanting to plan ahead. But
yeah, I mean, if that's what you want to do, that's where you're going to be running into indecision and being held up by it. But I think for Joe Average Wargamer, just build what you want to build. Deal with it when it happens.
I still think that's valid, though, isn't it? No matter what, if it's cool, build it.
Yeah, that is my philosophy.
Yeah, like as someone who has previously chased the meta and still wants to do well at tournaments, even if you don't, pull up an LVO winning list, etc., to take to an event. I still like to not get rolled over at tournaments, but still take something that I want to actually play with.
That's it. That's
my
that
approach.
Balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'll want to take something wacky that you won't see, but I will still want to. I don't want to take something that's shit.
Yeah.
I will try and make it the best wacky it can be.
Yeah. There's nothing more depressing, is there, than you've created that cool army that you think is wicked, and you just get completely rolled over.
Yeah.
I mean, there's almost a balance of why would you be at an event sometimes without at least an ambition to play some really good games against some really good opponents. And that doesn't mean you have to be on those top tables, does it? You can be on the lower tables, a lower third, or the middle, or something like that. You can still play some great games with your great toys and stuff.
When we all hit the GT, was it last year before? I think my final game of the weekend was against an Orc player. I was like, I haven't seen Orcs all weekend. And I was like, what have you got? He was like, boys. I like boys. And it was just a sea of Orc. I was like, okay, well, these are Imperial Knights. And he had loads of fun. Didn't win, but we had loads of fun.
That's it, isn't it?
He got to scrape off all his points.
But
he had fun playing with what he wanted to play with. So,
that's a good thing.
Maybe that's what you want to aim for. As long as you've still got a smile on your face at the end of the game, you've probably done something right.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely agree with you. Like, unless you're going to win, or I mean, I don't really. Well, I've never played anything that wants me to get ITC points or anything like that. So unless that's what, no.
I think I did once accidentally.
Yeah, I mean, the confrontation events are submitted for the ITC. I think, aren't they, Ricky?
The once the singles is only the one at the end of the year. So the bigger 50 odd plus player one is submitted for points only. The others aren't, because that wasn't the intention of confrontation.
No, yeah, absolutely. So as someone who doesn't chase standings on the ladder or anything, it's not. I just want to take some toys that I've had fun building and painting. Not that I enjoy painting ever, but playing with.
You do it all the night before.
What tournament have I got tomorrow, Sam? I've been painting today.
Dear God,
everybody,
check out your windows. Make sure that the world's still there.
I mean, I don't think it is. I'm fairly certain that is one of the signs.
But yeah, like so I can understand people's anxiety, but I think just the anger flash mob of
the internet
reacting to things. I mean, it's good news. Like everything's getting better. Like power swords are getting better. Heavy bolters are getting better.
And power swords getting better means what?
That
it means your Banshees still have to roll 6s to wound, mate. Sorry.
6s to wound, just you, Sam. Just you. Damn it! Can you hear me throwing stuff in this room?
I hope it's Howling Banshees, and I hope the thing you're throwing them at is the bin, because that's where garbage lives. But anyway, we've already done the Howling Banshee bit. So I can't wait to talk more about the overhaul of the Marine Codex when we actually get a little bit more information. And definitely. Also, and with that change in the Marine Codex, it's like half of the codex is in the game, because all of the Loyalist chapters, bar Grey Knights, are included in that book, and then they're all getting supplements. So I wouldn't be surprised, again, rampant speculation, if the supplements that currently exist just stay as they are and stay on release, and then they release the Blood Angels, Dark Angels, Space Wolves, Black Templars, and Deathwatch. As like a priority. And so that'd be great. So I can't wait to talk about that when we actually get a little bit more information on it. And also Necrons. Let's give Necrons a bit of a woo. Necrons. They're apparently the big bad guys now.
Yay! Happy beat boot.
I'm excited for the Necrons.
Yes. Yeah. I'm hoping they get. And I know we've seen a lot of the new models, but I hope their rules accurately reflect like the new sci-fi horror aspect of the models. I'd like to see a lot more of that, because that is very cool. A lot of it harkens back to the old 3rd edition Codex artwork, where they're like covered in like moss or cobwebs or whatever, and there's those awesome like pencil artwork. Pieces of the
I do like a mossy, rusty Necron. I get a little hobby buzz every time I see someone doing that sort of thing, and when it's done well, it's just so good.
Yeah, when it's done well, it looks incredible. But you've also got to think, what rubbish canoptic tomb spiders and scarabs they've hired to look after them when they're asleep.
They haven't got the broom out.
Yeah, they're there to look after everybody, make sure everybody's going okay, and that the tomb world's nice and tidy for when they wake up. So I don't know whether or not they've just been like, or have left it for 3 million years, and there's a tree
Which is why I've always seen
for
the Scarabs a bit like the Scutters in Red Dwarf, just rubbish at their job.
Yeah, it's like a really bad Consuela Connectic spider. Oh no, no more lemon pledge to clean Necron warriors.
Mr. Silent King not here.
Yeah.
That's your second Family Guy reference of the day.
We're gonna do this.
It's not. We're not 14-year-olds watching Family Guy for the first time.
Hey,
Ricky might be.
oh, I'm sure there's other people out there, and those other people out there, we'll share a link a little bit later of how you can leave us some voice messages. So if anyone's up for some Family Guy references, we can slip into 40k Warhammer or anything related to that. Like give us a little voice message, because I'd love to hear it.
Yeah,
or
you can leave us a
even your
voice message.
Consuela impressions, because I think it's brilliant.
You can also throw us hobby-related questions via the website as well. So feel free to sing us anything there, and we will holler at the ones that amuse us the most or pose the most intriguing question.
I didn't know that we could receive voice messages. So that's good. That's good.
Yes, I'll update you when we get off.
I assume that's a part of the podcast platform we're using that I haven't bothered to look at. So that'd be great,
guys. We're new.
It's either that or it's an entirely new feature invented by Ricky's rum intake. But
yeah,
we'll see.
In fairness, I have been for a walk today. That started at around about 12 o'clock. And we played some walking-related rum drinking games whilst in the woods.
Oh dear!
Yeah, that was a case of spot the dog. Anyone with a yellow T-shirt, you can see where this is going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we have an intervention for Ricky and his drinking habits, I'll just top mine up. So the other big news generating thing this week was we got the FAQs for the rulebook chapter approved, and a few other bits and pieces got updated as well. So
it did make me do a very quick yo-yo this week with the vehicle FAQ when that first dropped.
Yes.
Looking at my army of all dreadnoughts, I was like, "Oh, I better go and think." And then a day later, it was back to how it was, and I didn't need to even bother looking at my codex.
Yes,
was calm.
Yes, so that was something that I think rightly generated some confusion and animosity. Was the first FAQ or errata or designer's notes, whatever they've called it this time, was that. GW hadn't intended that two demon princes could walk up the board hand in hand and not be shot at. So they immediately changed it so that vehicles or monsters with fewer than 10 wounds couldn't block for characters regardless as to whether or not the vehicle itself was the vehicle or monster was a character. So I think that caused mild heart attacks with Drakari players and Harlequin players all across the world, and
don't forget Space Marines too. Those poor Imperial Fist players with their Thunderfire cannons. They probably flogged them all on eBay that night.
they might very
well. I wish
well
I'd thought about that. I would have been ready to receive them all in my big impulse cell net.
That's it. And then the next day they were like, "I will be declining this eBay buy it now of £10."
Yes, and then so GW's rules writing team and the Warhammer community team did take all of that feedback on. I think it was either a day later. Either a day later,
the Drakari player community kidnapping rules writers' children or anything like that.
Yeah, it was all the Drakari guys, literally savage, flesh, boring weirdos. Are we going to go there?
I think we can go there. Callum, you still got your Drakari army, right?
I've still got my Drakari army. It's
Did you go that route
somewhere? No, I was consoling people who were currently playing with Jakari that they should maybe dig out those raiders. But now they don't need to because Venom's now block for characters again.
See, for me as a Harlequin player, I missed it entirely. The next day, I came in and went, "You changed it back from what?" Oh,
that would have been bad.
That's very much where I was with my Marine army, because it's all dreadnoughts really, and I was like, oh god, I'm gonna have to go and look at those, and then I was busy with work, and then when I went to look at it the next day, and a notification saying there's a new FAQ out. Oh, they fixed it. Okay, right.
Yes,
I love having a life sometimes.
Yeah, so I think that rightly caused a bit of consternation, because it seemed like there was never the intention to let monster characters block for each other, and that the very simple fix would have been just to not let characters do it. But then that went wrong. But they fixed it. Like I don't think I've ever seen GW respond to something so quickly.
It was pretty quick.
It's obvious it was a misintention. Which is why they reacted so fast.
Yeah, it's an error. You know,
Oops,
if anybody did play a game on the Tuesday between the FAQ and the updated FAQ, and they lost all of their characters because their opponent could shoot at them, I feel bad for you, but it's also a pickup game clearly on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, and Tuesday, don't change your army list. Get back in there and go reap havoc.
Exactly. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And then there's a few other. Did anybody else pick up on any of the other changes in the FAQs at all? Anybody paying attention to that?
Obviously,
I went and had a few looks at things.
Yeah. Yes. So Smite has, and I wasn't even sure that this interpretation was correct.
I disregarded it, I think, and just kept it as what I think we all knew it as.
Yes. So
and
now
I didn't realise that. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
so now GW have clarified that you can cast multiple smites in a turn with different units, but the same psyker can't cast it more than once.
Yeah.
So you can't give Magnus 4+ to cast and potentially do 8d6 mortal wounds worth of smites in a psychic phase.
Yeah.
Which is something I'm quite sad about, because that would have been very, very funny for the one time that you do it. And then I imagine I'd be on the floor with a concussion, with a big shit-eating grin on my face. So you know, it's one of those things that's like that's what I imagine Magnus would be like, but we
can't have it all, can we, pal?
No, you got to balance them within the game, and machine gunning smites like that would have been silly. So
that Tuesday though.
That's all about. Would have been.
So those gaming clubs that may be listening that meet on Tuesdays, you guys are literally living life at the moment. Bastards.
But Other than that, I think everything was fairly expected. It was just tidying up wordings to heavy cover, because the wording of heavy cover was if you charged into cover, your opponent didn't get the +1 save, which was opposite to what was intended, which was you get the +1 save in combat if you're in heavy cover unless you charge. So I think that was just a fixing of a poor wording that was needed, and now it's fixed. So that's great.
Intern rules writer strikes again.
Well, yeah, it's something that those sorts of things. I usually give GW leeway until the FAQs come out, because everybody knows about the play testing situation, and GW frequently get stuff wrong and have to change it immediately with FAQs and stuff. But the game is still good. Those things obviously being different to what is intended. If as long as you can go, well, they're obviously going to fix that, then it's not the end of the world. And they did fix it. I mean, So something that something else that I saw was the clarification on how the blast weapons work, which is not something I sort of picked up on because I think GW put it out either wrong when they were doing their articles and their hype videos about 9th edition, or maybe left it out there in an ambiguous way. So weapons that roll multiple D6 or D3 when firing blast weapons, when it was initially pitched in the 9th edition release video and the 9th edition sort of like special rule focus was each dice roll would be a minimum of 3 if you're shooting 6 to 10 models, or a minimum of 6 if you're firing at 11 models. So that made things like Wyverns like seem, oh my god, these are horrendous because it's got 46 shots. If it's shooting at 6 guys, it's getting a minimum of 12, and if it's shooting at 11, it gets its full 24. But you know that wasn't the end of the world. I think that's what was driving a lot of the horde is dead sentiment that was floating around. But they've clarified the rule to say no, the total amount of shots that weapon generates is at minimum 3, minimum 6. So that Wyvern now, it's going to get a minimum of 4 shots anyway because it rolls 46. So that's ignored. But if it's shooting at 11 or more models in a unit, it's at least going to get 6 shots. So those people who, unluckily enough, roll 3 1s and a 2 for their 46 shots will get an extra one. And you won't have the situation that I had when I played against some Sisters of Battle the other week, and it was I was playing with a big unit of Possessed and a big unit of Plague Marines, and Exorcists were firing just 9 shots at me at any unit they shot at, which was terrifying, and it was making me scrape off models like hand over fist. So I'm glad that's changed. That's something that didn't necessarily seem wrong, but it made some things seem overpowered. And if it was left like it was, I think that would be something that would drive what people take. I think you would see less hordes, just because Guard would just be able to delete any horde army out there.
Yeah, 100%. There's so much blast in the Guard arsenal.
Yeah. I mean, we were. I think within one of our group chats this week, we were talking about now the, do you take a couple of heavy weapon squads with mortars, or do you take a Wyvern? And I've just realised that I've pronounced it Wyvern and Wyvern in the same 2-minute span. So we'll go with Wyvern. So a Wyvern costs like the same as 2.5, maybe 3 mortar squads. It's more survivable and more reliable because it's got the 40 shots within itself, and it rerolls to wound and a strength 4. But the heavy weapon squads, you can they're a lot easier to hide. You can move around the boards, etc. You can split them up, and they benefit from the orders. So it's good to see some dialogue about saying, well, they do the same job, but they also do different things better, which is really nice to see. Instead of just going, well, I'll take them both, or 3 of each, because Guard don't cost anything. So it's nice to see that sort of thing.
Guard caught my attention with the FAQs this week with an update to the Steel Behemoth rules. They're a bit more tasty.
Okay, so that was what let them shoot out of combat at things they weren't in combat with? Was that right?
Yeah, so that's been worded a lot more nicely. So it's basically it can shoot at enemies that aren't within engagement range as if there are no units within engagement range. So you can clog up a Dirty Great Shadow Sword with all the chod you want. It's still going to fire that volcano cannon at the important thing it wants to.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's very helpful for the super heavies and stuff.
Yeah, they can also fall back and charge and do whatever they want as well now.
Oh, okay, fantastic.
Which is pretty tasty.
Can they fall back over units? Or would they have to use Desperate Breakout?
They'd probably have to use Desperate Breakout. I didn't see anything specific
They're
to
not,
that.
so they're not like knights then. They can just
It's not
step
like a
over
knight
it.
that can just step over it, no.
That must be terrifying if you've got your Shadow Sword or your Baneblade or like your Minotaur, whatever whatever nonsense tank you're using, and you go, oh no, I've got to get out of combat because
my nonsense tanks are shagged if they get bogged down. It's not like a Baneblade or a Shadow Sword that can have heavy flame responses.
But I can imagine you going, oh, use Desperate Breakout because I need to move over here and I need to shoot at that thing. Brilliant. And I've rolled a 1 and it's dead.
That is what I do.
And
they've also rolled out Grinding Advance to loads of the wacky tanks, and all like the Forge World Rust variants and the Malcadors and the Thunderer Siege tanks all get Grinding Advance now. So
so is that the under half movement double shots?
Yeah, on the turret. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, they rolled that out.
So is that on like your Makaris and stuff now?
No. This is on the smaller.
Okay.
So like Russ's, Malcadors, and the weird little siege tanks that are just bucket guns on a box. They've all got the Grinding Advance now, even though strictly speaking, the siege tanks don't have turrets.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, yeah, but that's cool. I mean, I guess then that again means
just opens up a bit
choice.
more variation. I think you're likely to see more than a bog standard Rust rolling across at you. I think.
Yeah, and with that, I think we'll see more like demolishers and stuff as well with the new rules.
Yeah, they've been given the blast rule as well.
Yeah,
heavy D6 blast. Very nice.
Yeah, I mean, essentially heavy 2d6 with their with that Grinding Advance rule. So on you're not going to be able to get away from them, which is very cool. Very cool. Any other GW news or anything else from the FAQs you guys want to go over?
Oh, there's one thing I saw that. Because only a few days ago, I was chatting to someone who was very excited because they'd only just noticed a rule in Saga of the Beast that said all their Space Wolves were objective secured. That has now changed to only be Space Wolves troops, rather than all Space Wolves are objective secured in a battle detachment.
Has that changed?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I can recall reading and listening to reading articles and listening to podcasts to say that hadn't changed. And people were surprised that it hadn't been changed.
As I read it this week, I believe it says only Space Wolf troop units in their detachments get OBSEC now.
So, So before I check and look, because I don't like to be wrong, in the Codex, it states that only their troops get Defenders of Humanity.
Yeah,
but the problem
and in Saga of the Beast,
it just says everything gets it.
Yeah,
so
which is insane.
Yeah, which is insane. But if that has changed, brilliant. If it hasn't changed, laugh at Sam because he's just making stuff up. Because
I'm sure it has, and I'm ready to drown the sad trombone.
Anything to do with Space Wolf players is fun though, because they are the saltiest of all players. Second only to Eldar players really.
Second to Eldar players and anybody else who actually plays 40k.
One thing I did notice this week is just the more we venture into the edition and so on, and you start getting more to grips with the rules and all that sort of mumbo jumbo. Fortifications, my God! Now they can't be within 3 inches of any other terrain piece.
Yeah.
Now with the smaller tables, the more I feel like the more packed that tables are becoming. I don't think fortifications have a place anymore. Do you?
No, but they've never really had a place.
I appreciate they never have probably seen much of the light of day, but I think they're even less playable now than they ever were.
No, I don't think I've seen anything since someone tried teleporting a fence that had Gilliman on it across the board to assault on turn 1.
Well, that did work. That did work. I mean, yeah, I don't like when we owned the only time we saw them commonplace is when they were first introduced in 5th edition, when you could spend 50 points on an Aegis defense line and it was the best thing in the world.
What was the other one? The little Imperial
the old
bunker.
pillbox bunker. Yeah,
That's
brilliant.
the one, yeah.
That one.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Although I can remember someone at a local tournament called Pompey Pillage playing entirely rules as written with a Scutari detachment where everything in the detachment got the scout special rule. So he scouted a bunker and it caused a tremendous amount of fuss and was absolutely amazing.
I think I know who this was, and I can imagine him rubbing his nips in glee at every meltdown that was had over it.
Yeah, I think I remember this day. This weekend, should I say?
Yeah, so that was good fun. Consequently, they were playing on the table next to me, and by the time the judge had come over, they had talked through it. His opponent had made his protestation, saying that he didn't know he could do it, so he should get to redeploy his army. And then the judge having to read through it again. I had tabled my opponent, which was very funny. So he was saying
an opponent
happened all the time. I think that was the pillage I came second at.
That was the one where my best painted trophy was bigger than your second place trophy, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Excellent.
Two things that are very rare in life: you winning second place, and Sam winning best painted.
I've got a couple of second places. A bunch of thirds.
Mate, it's all about the nominations,
The
isn't
fact
it?
that you went really echoey there means that you've turned around.
Yes,
check.
I did. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. I did.
I had to turn around and check the precious things were still there.
Check this statement. Hold on. No, yeah. I've definitely won more than one.
And
not a first though.
And I've got a first. I won Confrontation SummerSlam or Summer Showdown. Yeah. So actually, I won the first
and
8th edition Confrontation tournament.
You did.
So yeah, get fun.
And the only one-day tournament we actually ended up running in 40k.
Exactly. So,
I'm not a real tournament.
Undefeated champion of the world, I think, is the statement. But also, I will cede the point. It is in the FAQ that only the troops get Defenders of Humanity. So
tell me I'm right again.
So it is good to see that was changed and is correct. Because
moving swiftly on.
Anyone who plays them. So, after now attacking the Elder community, the 40k community, and Space Wolf communities, I think we're probably sorted for this section, unless anybody else wants to highlight anything else they've noticed this week.
No, I think that was it from me.
No, it's been great. 40k.
No, actually, I did have one thing that caught my attention. I know we were talking about the other week if we saw something particularly good out in the wild, and you guys need to go and check this out. There's an account on Instagram called Utopia Studios.
Okay.
And that's Studios spelled ZTUDIOZ, and they have made a 40k scale plague tower.
Oh, I've seen that, and it's fantastic,
stunning. Oh god, it gives me a hobby boner every time I look at it.
It's got all of the like the ghouls and stuff climbing into the cannon and stuff at the top, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's got a dirty great bucket mortar on the top, and
Oh yes, found it. This gentleman called Magnus Eriksson, a very perfect Swedish name there. Wow.
Yeah. I saw the video and it's like rotating, isn't it? And it starts at the bottom and then goes on for like 10 minutes up.
Wow! Look at this.
Yeah.
Even down to the tracks.
Yeah. To quote Krieger, "Stop! My penis can only get so erect."
Have you? So that is very cool. Was there
a follow?
Was there any cool hobby stuff you found out in the wild this week, Ricky?
Yeah. I take my hat off to him all the time through sheer determination and loyalty to his armies that he produces. Our good friend Alan, Get to Chopper 84 on Instagram with his latest Red Angel, his Rampager Knight, where he's just done. So his knights are all white, which is a task in its own hand anyway. And then once he's painted them white, lovely, beautifully, he then basically, I can only describe is gets plenty of red gore paint and flicks it on with a
I'm fairly
toothbrush.
certain, just for the amount that is on there, that he just loads up a leaf blower with blood for the blood god.
Yeah, yeah. It's not a toothbrush; it's an electric toothbrush of sheer blood, and just cakes this beautiful paint job. It takes a certain amount of balls, but yeah.
Yes. Well, especially after he did all of the bloody handprints and stuff all over the armor, like the other ones,
and the corn insignia and the kill markings. Mate, Chopper.
All I can assume is that Alan is a glutton for punishment, because I don't know if you remember his Imperial Fists that he put together for the doubles tournament.
Yeah.
The first alliances for confrontation.
Yeah.
That yellow was
and
pristine.
what's his blue boys called? His Spears of the Emperor.
Emperor's Spear.
With all their runes on them. Mate.
Yeah,
he's a glutton for punishment, but it's worth checking out.
100%. They were that night was it was on one of GW's hobby roundups this week as well.
It was, yeah.
So fabulous stuff there by Mr. Alan Frank, good friend of ours. Cool, awesome. That was also what I was going to mention. So I haven't seen anything else I liked hobby-wise, but there was a fantastic little episode by 40K Today, which is a daily podcast on the Frontline Gaming Network, which put up a little half-hour episode about mental health within the Warhammer community and how it's helped people deal with personal issues. And that was a really nice read. They got to speak with, had an interview with a Warhammer playing mental health doctor, and that was there was some really nice interviews on that, and that's definitely worth checking out.
Oh, that's good. Yeah,
I'll check that out.
I can imagine.
Tea break sorted.
I can imagine our hobby's got some good, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like,
it's definitely got benefits.
Ways of helping towards mental health issues and stuff like that through its social aspect, its community aspect that it has gathered around it. That's I'll definitely check that out myself. Like, it's I can imagine it's good for a good thing.
Yeah, it was a good little it was a good little listen to. They promoted some guys somewhere up north that are playing 40 hours of 40k straight to raise some money for mental health charity as well.
2.5 hours is hard enough sometimes.
Yeah. So go give that a listen to. It was something that I just picked up on this week when flicking through the Frontline Gaming Network, and I thought I'd definitely give that a shout.
Great.
Cool. Right. So thanks very much for sticking around, guys. Ricky and I will be talking in the next segment about our actual first games of 9th edition. Sam hasn't played any yet because he's still locked up in his Fortress of Solitude. So it will just be me and Ricky. So thanks very much for recording tonight, Sam.
No worries.
And I no doubt will speak to you tomorrow because I love you very much.
Oh, I love you too, Pickle. you less, Rick, because, Eldar.
There it is.
Okay,
there it is.
Cool. I love you all the same. Peace out, family.
I'll speak to you tomorrow, you prick.
Thanks very much, guys, and join us again after a quick break. Okay, and welcome back. So thank you for joining us. I am still Callum, and I am joined by my co-host,
Ricky.
still Ricky. I've forgotten your name for a second. Then it's despite getting a lot of rain and a lot of grey skies over the last couple of days, it's still bloody warm. I've been chugging these mojitos, and I think that's affecting my cognitive ability. So we, both myself and Ricky, played some games of 40k this week, not against each other. So we're just really going to go over our first impressions, what happened in those games, what we learned from it, and what got us super excited about actually rolling some dice again. So, Ricky, if you want to go through your game, you sort of alluded to it earlier, that it was a Craft World versus Harlequin matchup.
Yeah.
I know. I've got the good Elder Army on my mind.
Oh, Master Race is not included. Hold on.
and you played a local friend of ours, Tom.
Yeah.
So what did you use? What did he use? And what were your first impressions of the game?
First off, oh my god, this edition, it just takes everything that from 8th and just irons it out nicely that I've picked up so far. So
It's good, isn't it?
yeah. So from reading the books and stuff like that and trying to get your head around it, I don't think it comprehends until you actually physically start playing it and realizing that you're like, oh, I've read it all, but until I come to actually rolling some dice and putting some units down on the table, I don't really realize or even notice that you know what the hell you're doing. So
100%.
I played 2K versus Tom. My friend Tom, and he ran a Inari / Bill Tan, I think it was, Craft World list, where he's toying with multiple Wraithseers, Yvrain, Incarn, lots of Dire Avengers, Warp Spiders in a battalion with some Wraith Lords. And then that's doubled up with a patrol with some striking scorpions and some rangers, and I guess some other bits in there somewhere. I can't remember for the life how the army list worked out, but that's pretty much what was in there, which was really interesting because I was talking to Tom. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. It's a Craft World army I've not probably come across in quite some time, where these different aspect warriors are brought into coalition together. And so I was talking to him a few weeks about it, where he played another guy that we know, Phil, and how he was going to run it. And he asked some opinions from me, and I was straight up looking at it going, I have no idea what you're doing. And so I said, like, what secondaries are you playing? And so he had a chat with me about it and what he's up to. And yeah,
yeah, sorry, carry on.
No, go for it.
I was going to say, I mean, off the top of my head, I can imagine he's either going with deploy scramblers, engage on all fronts. Maybe while we stand, we fight with the Wraithseers being expensive.
No, you pretty much got it in one with deploy scramblers.
Yeah.
Engage on all fronts, I think it was, and Psychic Ritual. And Psychic Ritual was with his Warlord Wraithseer. So
yeah,
a straight up big ass massive Wraith construct, 12 wound jobby, tankard, D cannon on the shoulder, strutting into the middle of the battlefield, and just literally going, bring it, motherfuckers.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting platform to use.
It was interesting because I'll mention it in a second of how that went, and then so I ran 2K of Harlequins. So if anybody knows how my Harlequins are in any way, it's very bike heavy, as you can imagine with most Harlequin lists, with 3 fusion boats. So 5 guys inside all the fusion blasters. I'm soaring Spite, as you can imagine, with all that fast maneuverability and the boats. And I actually ran for the first time a double Shadowseer and a double Death Jester with only a single Troop Master in that list, which is something I've never done before, based on the new White Dwarf rules that obviously dropped just before the new edition did. And I've not had a chance to play with the new Harlequin rules. Okay. So I wanted to play with all the new toys and all the new stratagems and all the new pivotal roles. That's it, and swapping them around. And yeah, it was dead exciting to create, a soaring spike warlord that dropped out of its transport after transport moved, created a 9-inch bubble of -1 attack on all opponents around him. And being able to use a 9-inch bubble of -1 to wound on all units, with an addition of a 2 CP stratagem. So that created quite a strong little bubble of quite tankard Harlequins on top of their -1. So that was kind of the way I was going with that. So with that in mind, I went with secondary objectives. So this was the first kind of time I was thinking about secondaries. And I went engage in all fronts, as you can probably imagine. So zipping across that battlefield, getting as many objectives and table quarters as much as possible, because it's quite an alpha strikey army.
Yeah.
I went for domination as well because we were playing. Was it mission 22? So battle lines. Where you've got basically 4 objectives, effectively almost in each quarter, where that would be quite beneficial. So I went for domination as well, where if I claim those objectives, obviously just making sure I'm on the right side of each objective meant that I had a quarter. And then because he had 3 Wraith Lords and 2 Wraith Seers, as you can imagine, I probably went for Bring It Down.
Yeah.
Your team is now on the clock.
Oh, hello.
Oh, yeah, that was.
Well, your team is now on the clock.
I do apologise. I finally got into a fantasy draft that I've been trying to get into all night.
Finally.
So
yeah, that's the way I was going with them. We deployed and everything, and straight up, I lost the role to go to first, and Tom actually said for me to go first, which may have been a bit of a mistake for him. It's difficult to say at the moment, but yeah, the Harlequins pretty much zipped across the battlefield, dominated multiple of the objectives, multiple of the quarters at one point, and I don't actually, in all fairness, we only managed to play 3 turns of the entire game, but I think I racked up probably something close to 60, 70 almost victory points in 3 turns.
Yeah.
Through secondaries and claiming all the primaries through 3 turns. It was quite savage for the Harlequins, unfortunately. So having those 2 primaries and secondary, it is a huge game changer. I mean, from 8th, where Harlequins used to have to play the mission massively anyway, to be able to play the mission so more fluidly and gain so much more from it, it's a real change to, I think, from 8th into 9th. Incredible way the new edition is. And I really enjoyed how Tom introduced the outflank rule, which was back 7th edition, 6th edition, wasn't it? Where you could, or was it 7th as well, where you could just choose to outflank certain units and bring them in.
Yes, yeah, you could. I
didn't even realise that was a thing.
Yes, yeah. Well, so you could put. You used to be able to put any unit in reserve and then walk on your table edge.
That's it.
And then certain units could outflank. But yeah, now the strategic reserves rule, essentially you can deploy on the side of the boards with anything, which is incredible.
I was like mind blown. I was like, oh, I did. Like I was saying, like where you think you've read everything, and then when you start playing, you go, "Oh, damn it! I didn't even realize that was a thing."
Yeah, incredible.
Like,
I mean, it's one of the biggest changes of the edition, Ricky. So, paying attention to something like that. Yeah, well, now you know. Now you know. That's why we play the game, isn't
it? even like another big change to the edition was the command phase. Like,
yes,
this is what I'm saying. Like, you think you've read it all, and then you've forgotten another fundamental thing with the command phase, where you get your 3 command point.
Yeah,
I'm like, I was mind blown. So from a Harlequin point of view, where you pretty much advance a unit every turn of bikes to get a 3+ invuln, it's a free 3+ invuln every single turn for that unit.
Yeah,
I was like, why have I not been reading this properly? Mind blown. It was an incredible night. I really enjoyed the game against Tom. Kudos to him for being such a great sportsman. For me, dominating that battlefield so much, unfortunately. But I was just like, I was mesmerized, and I couldn't have asked for someone better to help me, introduce me back into the new edition. It was really good. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, Tom's a lovely chap. Always great to play against. Sometimes takes some sort of like wackier army lists, but there's always a lot.
I loved it.
There's always a lot of thought behind it. Always a lot of thought behind it, which is always great. So cool. So it sounds like a double thumbs up from you.
Yeah, loving it. And you've played 2 games now.
Yes, yeah, I've played 2 games, and I'm hoping to
Ooh.
have another couple tomorrow as I've got people
Wonderful.
coming over to play. So I played last week an old friend Simon's Sisters Battle Army, which I didn't realise how difficult Sisters Battle are to kill now.
You're using your Death Guard, right?
Yes, yeah. So I was using my Death Guard. I didn't have the sort of initial 2,000 point list that I wanted to put together ready.
Don't tell me you're using like a 1,200 point list versus everyone else.
No. No, I jammed in a bunch of possessed and different things that I wouldn't actually use when it comes around to playing with the army. But I just wanted to get a few of the things. And we had a great game. He was using sort of a fairly standard core of lots of small units of sisters with storm bolters, a couple of units of Seraphim to drop in with melter pistols, a couple of exorcists, unit 4 mortifiers, which are the penitent engine variants that get like 15 attacks each or something.
Lovely.
Like terrifying. Celestine, some other characters dotted around, and a unit of Repentia and a Rhino. So it was really well thought out army, considering that he primarily bought it at the end of the last edition, not knowing that there was a new edition about, so it's adapted fairly well. And he's played, and he was playing it with the Order of the Valorous Heart, I think, which are the other girls that get a 6-up, feel no pain, and ignore Rend 1. Not Rend, that's AOS. AP1.
Same thing.
but that combos really well with one of the abilities of the Imagifiers, which give a 6-inch bubble of...
That's the banners, right?
Yes, that's the chicks running around with the big marble statues on sticks. And normally they can give a bubble of -1, but if they're Valorous Heart, they can ignore -2, which is...
That's correct. I was playing Nick, our friend Nick, with that, and I was using my Imperial Fists.
Yeah.
And a loss of small arms fire just bounced.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. Luckily, the list doesn't have my list doesn't have a lot of shooting anyway, and I was avoiding shooting those bubbles and stuff anyway. Or I was shooting multi melters at stuff. For example, with my Blight Haulers. But that was a really good game. Just to get a feel of things. We did quite a bit wrong, I thought. Initially, we started setting up, started deploying, and then realised we were playing an incursion mission instead of a strike force mission. So
I did exactly the same thing when we rolled. I read from the wrong mission. And I was just like, oh. And then Tom corrected me, and I was like, oh, I didn't even realise.
Yeah, we chose sides, we started deploying, and then we were like, this isn't right. I don't remember this one. But that was a lot of fun. We got so that was played on our my club's first night back from since reopening from COVID. So we played a few turns, and it was very close. I think there were like 7 points in it at the end of the third turn when we just decided to leave it.
So you won then, yeah?
I think I would have won. Simon had a small points lead, but I had my big unit of Plague Marines in the middle of his army and would have killed both Exorcists and probably Celestine the next turn. So I was in a comfortable position.
Simon, if you're listening, leave us a voice message. I want to hear what you thought would have happened if you had another turn. I'm quite excited to hear your opinion on this matter.
But the important thing is that we were just getting some models on the table, rolling some dice, just seeing how these interactions work.
That was pretty much the same last night, really.
Yeah, so that was good fun. And then I played my bestest of friends on Thursday, Mr. Pete, and we.
Hey.
Well, he is. So sorry.
Right, whatever.
I'm the godfather of his kid. Come on.
It's irrelevant.
Well, no. That's the only responsibility I have in my life.
Yourself is one of those, please.
So I had my this was using the Death Guard list that I'd originally planned. So that was a
so it's changed from your first game.
Yeah, it changed from the first game. I didn't have,
Right.
so it was a week later, so I didn't have all of the bits when I played my first game
Gotcha.
ready to go. So it was a Death Guard patrol with a winged demon prince with claws as my warlord with the 2+ armor save and 4 up feel no pain. He's great. A chaos sorcerer with a couple of psychic powers to buff infantry units. A Biologist Putrefier, who's the guy who essentially super
Is he the guy
buffs.
with the backpack?
Yeah,
Flamer thingy.
no, that's the Foul Blightspawn. The Putrefier is the guy with like loads of different jars and things on his back.
Oh yeah, no, I
and
know the one, yeah.
What essentially he does, he lets you create a unit that can just cause bucket loads of mortal wounds on things. So essentially, he lets anybody using a blight grenade within 3 inches use a different profile, which is strength 4, 2 damage, and any 6+s cause mortal wounds.
Lovely.
So there's a stratagem that lets all of the models in the unit throw a grenade, which is great when they're D6 shot blast weapons. They're plague weapons, so they reroll 1s to wound. You give a character a warlord trait that lets them reroll all failed wounds with plague weapons. And you could use Veterans of the Long War to get that +1 to wound, so you're causing mortal wounds on 5s. And also there is a stratagem that lets you get 6 inches extra range on any plague weapons. So, him combined with a unit of 20 Plague Marines I had, essentially is designed to rock up the middle of the board and be hidden using Cloud of Flies and minuses to hit and terrain, and then just sort of dominate that middle table space.
What was Pete using?
So Pete was using his Drakari.
I was using Drakari, cool.
Yeah. And I'll go through what he had in a moment.
Is this why there was a little tear coming from him, almost?
Yeah, it was, yeah. I mean, I made a lot of disgustingly resilient, a lot of 5-up invulnerable saves.
Oh, yeah, he was bitching about your dice, that's right.
So alongside that, I had 3 of the Myphetic Blight Crawlers, which are the little demon engines with missile launchers and multi-melters, because they're great for 100 points each. They had a unit of 3 of those, and 2 Plague Burst Crawlers, and a unit of 5 Spawn, because Spawn are super cheap, and for a single CP you can give them disgustingly resilient, so they've got a 5-up feel no pain, and so they're really good just sort of counter.
Have I missed something with Spawn then, where they've actually become quite a decent little unit?
They're fairly easy to kill, but they're like 21 points each or something. So for
I don't know why I think that they used to be silly expensive. You used to end up with just the odd 1 or 2 running around.
Yeah, you didn't really see them in the in the last editions.
Maybe that's probably what I'm thinking then.
Yeah, I picked up a couple of units when they were in the Conquest magazine. Because it was like £7 for 2 Spawn instead of like 25 quid. So I bought a bunch of those sometime last year for using my Thousand Suns army, because it gives that army like a counter punch. Right. So I've always had like the idea of Spawn being good in the back of my mind. And when the War of the Spider Psychic Awakening came out, and it said there's a stratagem where you can give any unit with a wounds characteristic of under 12 disgustingly resilient for a single CP, I immediately thought Spawn. This is great on Spawn. That's 20 wounds for like 110 points or 115 points with
with
a 5-up feel no pain. They're fairly quick. They're movement 7. They've got a bunch of attacks that are either strength 5, strength 6, or reroll to wound.
Toughness?
Toughness 5. So not too bad.
Not too shabby at all.
But they're AP 2 damage in combat, and they've got D6 attacks each.
So they're not something to be sniffed at all?
No, yeah, you've got to deal with them. So they're sort of like front and centre screening the big unit of Plague Marines.
Unit of Plague Bearers sitting behind them.
Yes, yeah, and then I've got a Nurgle Demon Patrol, which has got a Smallpox Scrivener, who gives...
He's the guy with the scroll.
Yeah, he's the guy with the big scroll and then like the big shouty slug on his shoulder.
Yeah.
He gives Plague Bearers +2 movement and +1 to hit and extra attacks on 6s. Right. And then a unit of 30 Plague Bearers to make use of him. and then 2 units of 3 Nurglings.
Right.
So the idea is that the Nurglings advance deploy up the table, either on objectives or hidden out of line of sight. The Plague Bearers just hold a big chunk of the table, and then either are hiding screening the Plague Burst crawlers or whatever, and then I move up the other block of big unit of Plague Marines with the Myphetic Blight haulers giving them light cover with the characters. So essentially work out of 2 castles. One is super killy, the other one is super resilient, and then just sort of try and dominate that middle table space. So the army's designed to work with a couple of secondaries.
I was about to ask, what secondaries is that working on then?
So my initial thought is using the GT pack. It's called Grind Them Down, and in the normal match play, I think it's called Attrition, which is essentially at the end of the battle round, if I've killed more units than you've killed, I get 3 CPs, three victory points, which is really good for Death Guard, because you're hard to kill and don't have too many units.
Yeah.
And that unit of Plague Marines, if it gets within 12 inches to use that grenade bomb, will just kill multiple units. So I used that. And another one which I quite like with the advanced deploying Nurglings is engage on all fronts, because you can just deploy in those table quarters and guarantee that you're there.
Yeah, okay, yeah. How many units of Nurglings is that then?
So I've got 2 units of 3.
Okay.
So a lot of Death Guard
so
units. So
combined with the rest of the army, that's enough to cover some tables.
Yeah, absolutely.
Quarters, sorry.
Yeah, the Plague Bearers are deceptively quick because they're essentially move 7 with +1 to run.
Yeah.
So they could get places if they need to. Yeah. So
it's ironic, really, considering they're supposed to be like fat little.
Yeah, they're supposed to be really slow. So the army itself sort of like is designed to take that middle space and fight you, and then just sort of look to see what other secondaries are available as part of the mission or are opponent dependent. I don't really want to go for any of the psychic ones because if you use one of the psychic secondaries, you can't cast any psychic powers.
Yeah.
And I need all 3 spells that I've got to be cast, really. So I took the so against Pete, I took the mission specific one, which was I get a certain amount of victory points depending on how many quarters of my army are left.
Right.
Which is quite cool. So I had 12 units. So essentially, if I kept more than 9 alive, I got 15. More than 7 alive, I got 10, etc., etc. And that works out pretty well. So that was pretty cool. So Pete went first, and he was running a bunch of Venoms, a couple of warrior squads with characters in Raiders, a couple of small witch squads, a Raven, Void Raven bomber, which is always great. The other plane, the Razorwing jet fighter. I've got a Drakari. I mean, this is terrible.
I do the same thing each time. I never remember what anything's called.
A Disintegrator Ravager, a Reaper, which is the Forge World support vehicle, which is absolutely incredible for its points. It's just the boat that's built around a big gun and a big sail. That's beautiful. And then he had Drazar, a couple of Archons, and a small unit of Mandrakes.
Right.
So Pete chose engage on all fronts, which is easy to do when all of his vehicles like move. He was primarily Cabal on the Flayed Skull.
I think, for Eldari of all sorts.
Yeah. So he had that. He had Deploy Scramblers, which is such a good one. It's only worth 10 points, but when you've got little units like Drakari Warriors or Cabalite Warriors, they're not going to do a lot anyway, so they might as well just walk up the board and bonk it down. He used his Mandrakes to pop up at the end of his third movement phase in like one of my table quarters that I was ignoring, and that gave him the full points for engage on all fronts and deploy scramblers, because they just dropped on, did the action, boom, done.
Yeah.
So that was quite sneaky, quite cool. So Pete went first. He sort of hammered the main Plague Marine unit. I think he killed like 8 of them in the first turn, which is when they're really vulnerable because you haven't got all your psychic powers and stratagems up to keep them alive. Did a huge amount of wounds on one of the Blight Haulers, took it down to a single wound, and killed a couple of Nurgling bases. But I was very jammy with a bunch of invulnerable saves for that Blight Hauler to keep it alive. He also had Bring It Down, so he got points for killing units.
Lovely.
Killing vehicles and monsters, which I've got a few of in my list. But it meant that Pete didn't actually kill a whole unit turn 1. I had to use Insane Bravery to not risk losing a huge chunk of that Plague Marine unit. So I drained a load of CPs. And then essentially I just ran the Plague Bearers, ran the Plague Marines just to get into that middle of the board area. And then it just became me deleting Drakari vehicles, unfortunately. It was quite difficult. I managed to shift Pete off of the 3 objectives in his half of the board in the first turn. I killed the Ravager that was on the objective in his deployment zone with the Plague Burst Crawlers and Blight Haulers. And then managed to get Nurglings to contest the other 2 objectives in his half of the board. So that denied him scoring in his second turn, any of the primaries. Excuse me. So that was, and then I scored a load of points my second turn, and then it was just sort of building on from there, killing all of his vehicles, killing all of his units that popped out of them. So Pete unfortunately didn't really get to see the strength of his list, but it was great to actually see him face to face. I try and see him every few weeks. It was great to play a game because we've not played since February, I think.
Hopefully that's Pete back to the drawing board then to see how Drakari are faring up in 9th.
Yes, yeah. So both Pete and I ran really like Cabal heavy Drakari lists in the last edition.
You did, yeah.
Which is the stuff I really like out of it, because I like all the warriors and the vehicles and stuff. It looks great. Yeah. But I think you do have to take more of a balanced approach to it now. You do have to include some of the witch stuff because. And
I guess that's what the edition tried to force on us, didn't it? Like, a more versatile list than a straight up single. I think like what Imperial Fists were, for example, like a straight up blow the opponent away to win the game style approach.
Yeah, you can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
It's just not something that you can feed. Like, I imagine there is some lists out there that can do it and still take advantage of the objectives, but it's not every army you're playing is just trying to do that because that's easier than actually standing on objectives. So it was a lot of fun. Again, we got like 3 or 4 turns through it and then just sort of said, okay, we'll pack up now. We'll have a drink. We'll chat about it.
I think that's where we're going to be for a few games, isn't it? Before
I imagine. I imagine. We've still got a few more. Hopefully, I've got some of the guys around tomorrow to play some games.
Good stuff
throughout the day.
Have a chat about them in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, exactly. And bouncing ideas back and forth off each other, and really see how it goes. Just got to learn. Got to find which of those secondaries you really want, which ones are actually traps, ones that look good but are actually difficult to achieve.
Well, that's it, isn't it? What might look good on paper doesn't necessarily work on a battlefield.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can really get really meta with it of taking secondaries to counter your opponent's secondaries or taking units to specifically counter secondaries,
100%. And I guess that will come with the more games that we play. And
100%.
the more we see those armies starting to develop in a specific local meta, or even a national meta style, where 40k evolves to go, and you can start, you start seeing those patterns, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I can't wait for. I can't wait to have a semi-competent knowledge of what the edition is, what sort of things you'll see, and then 100%. Building lists to engage in that. Hopefully, I'm hoping that things stay sort of in a local meta for a bit longer. I think we're likely to see that because we're not going to see huge tournaments. Definitely not really, in the US, definitely not in the UK. The Australians seem to play a completely different style of Warhammer to everybody else, even though they're the largest market at the moment playing tournaments.
Well, they're locked within themselves, aren't they? Like no one can enter the country, no one can leave the country. We've got our own tournaments. Let's go nuts.
So I think you'll see that, and it will be, well, nobody's winning the ITC with this particular list at the moment, so you won't necessarily see carbon copies of that at local events. There'll still be I've been made aware that a couple of the big personalities in the UK yesterday, Friday evening, put out a how to play with Death Guard podcast, including the Blight Grenade Bomb, and then another was how to beat Death Guard, including the Blight Grenade Bomb. So I like to think that I was a little bit ahead of the times there.
But then there's also been I'm going to give up 40k for a few months until the new books are out because I've had enough.
Yeah. There's a lot of that about, but yeah, I can't wait to just play more games. I can't wait to be at a tournament again and just rolling some dice and getting pissed.
Well, we've got to relax of some new rules coming from the government, haven't we? So local tournaments and stuff like that might be a thing of the future, but obviously that's down to venues, and we'll see how that goes, don't we? That's all we can do.
Yeah. So and I feel like that's when you really get the feel of a list. I mean, we sort of went through it earlier. The sort of level we go at to play at tournaments is that sort of, I don't want to get rolled. I want to do well, but I want to do well with an army that I want to play with.
Yeah, it's a weekend away. It's playing with toys, meeting new people, playing new games. Yeah, we don't want to get trashed, but yet we still want to have a good time.
Yeah, exactly. So so I'm hoping that sort of philosophy holds for a little bit. We can live in this little ideal bubble down in the Portsmouth area, playing some tournaments or playing amongst ourselves, and then when the big national tournaments roll around again, we can get put back in our place.
We can play the big hard game now. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Like Pompey do, even in football. But yeah,
probably. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't actually play much. Pay much attention. Anyway, yeah, definitely. It's exciting to see where we're going with this edition. So far, so good, and yeah, it's only, the future is bright.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree, and also, by the time the Marine Necron Codex has come out and we see a couple more codexes, we'll see a complete overhaul of how we're playing the game, probably early next year. So that's something else to look forward to as well, which means I get to buy more toys, which is great. I get to buy new armies and I get to play loads of different things and loads of cool new things. So
that's it, isn't it?
Super excited for that. Cool. So was there anything else you wanted to go over from your games? Anything you were going to take into games going forward that you really learned from? I know you've only played one game.
Yeah, I think at least one thing with blast weapons of models of 6 or more, is it?
Yes,
So my bike units being 6 strong, I think I'm going to drop them down to 5s.
Yes,
just
also
for that benefit.
Also, you have to deploy them differently because
exactly.
of the coherency rule.
Coherency, that's what was pointed out to me. So I had 1 unit of 5 and 2 units of 6. So I'll definitely drop a couple. I mean, I lose 2d6's worth of haywire against vehicles and stuff, but I feel with the new introduction of secondaries, I can make up for that on the battlefield. With the introduction to even another Death Jester running around, or another Troop Master, or maybe another couple of troop units, or another single troop unit. I don't know. So another couple of games might be able to iron that out for me. And then hopefully by that time, I've got some Custodies built, and I can start playing with them, see how they fare out. But yeah, for now, that dropping that units down to 5 from 6 definitely seems to be beneficial for armies that rely on multiple small units.
Yes,
I wouldn't say multiple small units is the way forward. It doesn't work for all races, as I think Tom might have found out.
Yes, I think it's definitely something that some armies can take advantage of.
Yeah,
but that comes with the inherent disadvantage of some of the secondaries.
100%.
So like grind them down, for example, if you're playing with loads of units of 5, Rangers or Scutari or whatever running around the board, they're very easy to delete without a lot of outlay.
Yeah.
So that's something that you've also got to consider is what sort of secondaries does this army easily bleed, and is there something that I can do to prevent that at the list building page?
I think the new edition as well gives you a permanent fix on almost what you want the army to achieve, dependent on despite the mission. Sorry.
Yes.
So with the secondaries, you've always got a goal. Mm-hmm. Almost, maybe two secondaries. So you've always got a goal. Then the third could be, whatever suits best. And then you've obviously got your primaries, which you'll just play to anyway because that's the mission. So I think list building is going to be very different this edition, and it's exciting to see how that's all going to start panning out. Really based on those secondaries, I think.
Yeah. It's not all just about what is super resilient and what is super killy. Like it's not about that anymore. So I mean, Pete and I were talking after the game, and we were discussing the merits of some of the other units that aren't super killy in the Drakari book.
Okay.
And I said it's not something that's like great, but like 5 Hellions, for example.
Yeah.
I know. They're 15 points each, so you're looking 75 points for a unit of 5. But they're infantry, so they can do every action in the game. And also their base move is 16.
Okay.
So with one of the combat drugs, that gives them +2 movement. So turn 1, they're going 18 inches plus D6 if they need to.
Yeah.
To not that you can advance and do actions. I don't think. I need to double check that. But I was like, it's for 75 points. That's something that you can easily hide. Your opponent's not necessarily going to go, "Oh, I need to kill those 5 Hellions," even if they can shoot them. And then go, well, they can just zip off into the middle of the board, deploy scramblers, or just move that 18 inches and charge something to tie it up turn 1. Like, you're not expecting them to kill anything, but you could contest an objective, you can jump into a table quarter.
100%, yeah.
And then we were looking at, for the same sort of points, you get a unit of 5 Scourges, which are slower because they're only moved 14. They don't get any buffs to their movement, but they're a lot more survivable.
Yeah.
And you can, even if you just have them with their basic shard carbine poison weapons, they can still shoot when advancing, and then there's a little bit more utility in that unit if they're not having to shoot off and do actions.
Yeah.
So that's a cool little, you look at these units that don't necessarily kill anything.
Yeah, I was talking to something similar with Tom.
There's a place for it. Yeah.
100%. Like he's using deployed scramblers as well. as kind of like a mainstay of how the army operates with warp spiders and striking scorpions and stuff coming out. I said maybe drop the warp spiders, and bring in swooping hawks. So having 2 units of swooping hawks, one on the battlefield, one off the battlefield, means that from turn 1 you can deploy scramblers, then you can leave the battlefield turn 2. When the other one turns up, you can deploy scramblers, and vice versa. You can each turn you can just keep dropping in and taking those objectives for the deploy scramblers with just these 2 units of swooping hawks, just popping in and out. Something, again, like you said, like may not necessarily be noticed too much because there's so much going on, but they're just pottering around, dropping in, doing what they need to do, buggering off. It's these little units that can just change the tide of battle by not actually interacting with the enemy, but just smashing it with objectives.
Yeah, 100%. So great lessons learned from our games. I think that's a perfect place to sort of wrap up, really.
No, I think so.
We know where we're going. We've rambled on a bit. We're going to play some more games. So looking forward to the future of War Down South. We'll be releasing another episode in a fortnight. So hopefully keeping those releasing either Sunday night, Monday, every other week or so. We've spoken to a few people in the area that are excited to come on and talk about their ideas. So hopefully we'll have some guests to interview and talk about their personal hobby, where they fit in the local community, and stuff that they're really interested in. So that'll be great. So that's going to be good fun. I just wanted to thank all of the great reviews we've had from people, predominantly in the local area. People have come up to me and said, "Oh, I really enjoyed that," blah, 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 at our club, or people that I know through the hobby in the local area. But we've had some listeners in the US, which was something that I didn't expect on the first go.
Woo, international.
So I don't know if we're international or if it's just somebody using a VPN. But I don't know why. But if it's someone in the US, howdy. If it's not, and it's somebody using a VPN, good job, I guess, for keeping your data secure.
Keeping us on our toes.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I think that really rounds us off for this week. So just once again, thank you to everybody who's listened to episode 1. And today's episode. So you can really just make sure to catch up with us on all of your favourite podcast and streaming channels. War Down South podcast is on iTunes, Spotify, directly on our Anchor channel, and on a host of other podcast platforms. During the weeks, we'll just be posting up regularly on our social media platforms, so you can find us at War Down South Podcast on Twitter. I believe you can find us at the same address on our Instagram as well, Ricky, that you set up this week. Is that right?
That's it. That's correct.
Fantastic. And then you can just find my stuff. My personal Twitter account is at Sir Callum. And where can people find you, Ricky?
You can find me on Instagram, Confrontation Events, and you can also get me on Twitter at Confrontation EV, where I pretty much talk about personal Warhammer musings.
Brilliant. And Sam can be found at 40 Ammers on Instagram. So I think that's really us done. Thanks for listening. Have a great couple of weeks, and we will catch you in the next fortnight. Thanks very much.